All right, hello everybody. Good evening. My name is Kevin, or as I recently, I know I haven't done one of these webinars in like about a year, but since I've done my last one, I actually now you guys can call me Dr. Bao. So if you ever want to, so if you're ever interested in sort of addressing me similar to how some of my students do, you can always call me that. But I really do prefer to be called Kevin. So if any of you do want to chat with me, feel free to reach out at any time. So hello, welcome to our webinar. We try to do these every so often whenever we have new parents. It's not always that we're able to get new parents. So we don't always have time to do these. So it's really a pleasure to be able to be here and chat with everyone. I hope to get to everybody's concerns about this course, and then we can chat a little bit more um, about any questions you guys may have. So I want to start by talking a little bit about the course. So we've been offering this course for a couple of years now. I see some familiar names in the chat tonight, as well as some people who I'm maybe not less familiar with, but hopefully we'll get to know each other over the time that you or your student take this class. Our course has been running. This will be our seventh year running. We're very proud of that. We started our course back when COVID first began. At the time, there really was a large gap in sort of the availability of classes like this. Um, for students, COVID was a very isolating time for a lot of us, both in the community, right? Many of us who grew up with, USA BO or other sort of competitions know that, going to math circles and going to, courses was not only really important for our training to do well in competitions, but important for our social lives and important for our students to meet other people with similar interests. So part of what we aimed to do with this course when we launched it was to sort of try and bridge that gap. And I think originally perhaps we'd maybe intended to have this course really run during COVID and see where it goes afterwards. But we've been very lucky that our course has survived and really thrived since then. So here we are now. I know there's a couple students in the chat tonight, so I want to say hello to all of you. Thank you for tuning in. And any parents, again, feel free to ask your questions and we will try to get to them. So our course today is structured. Hello to Allison from New Jersey. Our course is structured today in this way. We know that one of the main draws of our course is the community that we've built around it, and the real access not only to the expertise of our staff, who we work really hard to hire. I think just the best staff that we can get. We've got IBO gold medalists, we've got USA BO medalists. Really, I always joke that nowadays I even think that uh, I'm maybe one of the less impressive members of the staff since I did not ever win any medals at IBO. So it really is wonderful to have so many great teaching staff, but access not only to our teaching staff, but to our alumni community and to a community of current students, so they can get help 24/7, whether it's from one of our many dedicated alumni or from our staff. We're always available, whether it be by email or by Discord to answer your questions. Um, what I will say is our course today is broken up into level one and level two. We did this a couple of years ago because one challenge that we've always had was our course is designed to be taken several times. Biology is maybe not the same as math, where sort of, oh, I take one class and I move to the next one and there's different problems. Biology really is about reinforcing that thinking. And I always have emphasized that it is really challenging and really difficult to get everything out of the course on the first try. So, what we want to emphasize is that our course must be taken multiple times, but that each time we emphasize different skills and different components of it. So level one is intended more for beginners. I will say that level one is not meant to be an intro level biology course. If you're trying to sort of say, oh, my student has had no exposure to biology and they just want to be exposed to it, this is not the best option. I'm not saying that the course isn't suitable for beginners. We've had many students take the course as a beginner and make top 20 or top 50 and do really well. So I say it's definitely a good balance, but we split the course into level one and level two because by offering a more modular version of our full course, you're able to get you're able to get you're able to sort of know what skill you're trying to emphasize at which level. And we know we encourage students to take level one, level two, and some students want to get both aspects because there's helpful things in both levels for students at all um, timelines. So we also do offer a full package at like a pretty steep discount versus taking the two courses over 2 years. So if that's something that students are interested in, our course is offered in evenings through office hours, as we call them, but really they're more TA lectures. And then every Saturday, the whole class gathers for the main lecture, where I will deliver a 2 hour lecture about the content of the week. And so that's, the main scaffold of the course. All of our content is available digitally as recordings, so students can review it at their own pace. I know some students find the live pace to be challenging to follow, or they, can't attend for whatever reason. One example, we have a lot of student athletes, and athletes, if any parents are familiar, training is really late, and it can be hard for them to be able to take my course, which is up to 7 days a week if you pay for the full package. Um, so it can be difficult, and we've had many students who opt for a purely asynchronous learning experience. And we've had some students reach great success. I actually got a very nice message from one of our finalists this year who reached out and said that she wasn't able to attend any of my classes in person, but she really enjoyed, hearing about me, and it was nice to finally be able to talk to me. And I said, well, you could have at any point written to me, but I'm glad that you're writing to me now. So I'm very excited that I think the asynchronous learning component has been successful. So if you're a student, you might be worried, I can't attend all the classes live. That's totally okay. I think many students get a great experience out of taking the course asynchronously, and it's been very helpful. And additionally, even if a student does attend in person, it's a great resource available for them to be able to review and look at the material after we've already gone over it. One of the main factors that we've always emphasized, and that's something which I really stand by, is I really want to offer a positive experience for students, and to offer an experience that is, I hopefully valuable to them. We're never a course that will offer anything which isn't going to be beneficial. You can talk to, if you ever have any students, or you can talk to any of the students. Some of them are in the chat today. They know how often and how much time I spend considering what exactly to offer, and what exactly would be most beneficial for most students. So that's really what we're trying to emphasize with this course. And I think that our course, and its value speaks for itself. We we're one of the I know the course is not, I would say, cheap, but we, I think, offer great value. Our course significantly less is significantly less expensive than some of our competitors, and that's just because we have really streamlined it, and you're not paying for tons of additional things, and you're not paying for things like a venue and all that. So I really think we managed to reduce the cost for parents and students, and we've made this course very efficient. So we'd love for you to join us on this journey. Now, I have a few pre-submitted questions. These are questions that people ask frequently, and we always sort of collect some beforehand. I'll go over these. I know people are sort of messaging me questions, um, and I will try to get to all the questions tonight. But I want to go over these pre-submitted questions first because they are really, really common questions that I get. We also do have a website with an FAQ. I know not every question is answered in an FAQ, but if you have any questions, there are answers there. We should maybe take note to make sure to update that for this year, since we should always try to keep an update on things like how many students we have currently for mid camp and stuff like that for people who care. So we've broken up into about seven different categories. The first category of questions we get are what are prerequisites and what are the backgrounds that of students who take our course. We're really proud, and we've always emphasized that we want this course to be for everyone. That being said, obviously, a freshman or an eighth grader, even, or our youngest students, our seventh graders, although we have had younger, but any student that's motivated can really get a lot out of the course. But the course is once again designed to be taken more than once and designed to emphasize different skills at all levels. So students don't really need to have a ton of background, but what I will say is for the highly motivated student, this is a really good opportunity to get ahead of your peers. A common question I get asked is what is our textbook? We use the USA Bio official textbook, which is Campbell's Biology. Campbell's Biology is one of my favorite textbooks. I personally read it so many times, and I'm actually planning to read it again this summer as sort of some summer reading for me, just so that I can stay up to date. Um, and many students always ask, should I have read the book before I take the class? And my philosophy towards that is similar to my philosophy towards all the classes I took in high school, which is I always read the textbook before taking a class because I know it's going to take more than one time to achieve mastery of a subject. And to be competitive, remember, making top 20 is not just top 20 in your state, it's top 20 in the whole country out of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of students. It is challenging. And so you need to have a real sense of mastery. So the more times you read it, the better it is. But we have had students who use this as an exploratory course or just for background. And so that's also totally okay. I think there are some students who get a lot out of this class without necessarily taking it exclusively for USABO. This class also teaches many skills that are helpful in getting lab internships. I know it helped me personally to have a strong background, and I've had students before who no, so it's always helpful. And our core staff are really experienced and happy to offer suggestions. I'm not going to say we have opportunities or anything, but what I will say is we are always happy to help with, tailoring your email or helping you figure out how to write to professors and how to approach them. So there's a lot of other skills, a lot of other things that you can benefit from, and you get connected with our networks of, really motivated, highly dedicated students who oftentimes, a lot of projects and a lot of collaborations have begun in our community, and we're always really proud of that. So any student, regardless of the level of interest, I think can benefit from this course. But of course, if your goal is top 20 in USABO, which is something that we think should be your goal if you're taking our course, if you've read the book, it's certainly helpful, but it's not necessary. Students also like to ask if they need additional materials. And my question answer again is it depends on the student. I know life is complicated. There's no silver bullet for anything. But the more books you read, I would say the better, albeit this year we're really trying to emphasize that just reading 20 textbooks is not the strategy. It's, maybe it could be fun for some students, but we think it perhaps isn't the most efficient use of time to benefit a student. And what we're going to be really focusing on this year is, biological intuition and biological reasoning to help your students have the type of thing that they're going to apply later on in their studies and, of course, on this exam to do well. But additional books can always be helpful. If in the course every year we sort of go over what books we think are most valuable, and this constantly changes based on what the landscape of the usable looks like. So just know that there are other books we recommend, but the only book that we really need is Campbell's Biology for the class. Now, the second question I get asked is what is the course structure and should my student take level one or level two? And I will say that this is a very, very personal question. We struggle a little bit because we obviously think, right? And I will just say this. The intended curriculum of the course is that students should be taking both level one and level two, so our full package program, which does mean that you have 7 days of classes a week, and it is a lot. We think that that's the most effective. You get access to all of our staff. I'll quickly explain the difference between level one and level two for anyone who isn't familiar. So our class, of course, has some office hours, some TA lectures that are common to both level one and level two. That's going to be our homework review, which where we go over the weekly homework assignment that we give. And this year we have Vishal Surya, an MIT student, giving his case study office hours for both level one and level two. This is in line with our emphasis on intuition. We think case studies looking at real world examples of disease or applications is going to be helpful for students to develop that intuition. So we've taken his office hours, his TA lecture, and made it common to level one and level two. Level one students get two of our really our favorite office hours. One is taught by the incomparable Jason Wong, who's currently undergrad at Harvard, really following in my footsteps. Um, and we're through the world at IBO, and he's really great. He gives what we call the lecture primer. It's going to be it's going to be emphasizing covering the material that we will go over in the main lecture before. One real disadvantage beginners have is that they're not as familiar with the content going into the main lecture, so they get less out of it. We're hoping to bridge that gap by having these office hours. The students find, even level two students find his explanations really clear, especially because not all students resonate necessarily with the way I explain every topic. Getting a second opinion sometimes can be super helpful. So I adore Jason, and so he is teaching that class. The other level one class this year is problem solving. If you've taken a course before, problem solving traditionally was a common TA lecture, but this year it's a level one exclusive. A part of that is because we feel like level one students need the problem solving a little bit more, and we're hoping to emphasize that component of it. In the past, we've done like test review and other things, but we really think that they should just be really emphasizing that. And level two students, most of them are doing lots of problems anyway or have done them, and so we felt like they were getting less out of that. So we moved it to a level one exclusive so that it could be more tailored towards beginners. And level one office and that problem solving office hours will be taught this year by Suzuko Oshima, who was I believe number I want to say five in the world at IBO, four at IBO. He's really great from Southern California, where Joseph and I are also from. So it's yeah, it's really wonderful to have him on board as well. He's also going to be starting at MIT this fall. And then for the level two office hours, they get not case study, new concepts with Joseph. So Joseph has really, is really an expert in some areas of biology where I'm not an expert, like mathematical modeling, statistics, organic and biochemistry. So those are areas where I'm not quite the expert, but Joseph really is, and Joseph has such a wonderful way of teaching it, and he really is. And he really has done a good job. Right? We're focused on advanced topics. These are topics mostly geared towards students trying to break that top 50, top 20 barrier, which is not relevant for students at a lower level. So he's really here to sort of take whatever I teach each week and go a little bit deeper. So Joseph will be teaching that, and he's had years of experience. We started the class together. And then our last new office hours, what has been really popular with our level two students, it's called skill building, but more accurately, it really should be called something more on the lines of journal club office hours, where so much of the modern semifinal exam is focused towards reading papers and direct applications of scientific studies. So this class aims to read a paper each week and teach students how to understand those papers, how to get into the mindset of a graduate student, really, and get there much faster than you would be able to without that training. It's being taught by the incomparable Sunny Biswas, who's also going to be starting at MIT this fall. He's comes from an academic family and has been doing research for a long time, so we really feel like he's a great fit for this particular office hours. And so we're really excited. We have a lot of new staff coming in. Some of our previous staff are graduating from college, and so they're off to new things, and we'll miss them dearly. But we've got some returning staff, we've got some new staff, and we're really, really excited. I want to quickly answer one question I saw in the chat, which was whether or not case study will focus on physiology. So that's a great question. When we hear case study, we oftentimes think of medical case studies. And the goal is that physiology isn't just anatomy, right? A lot of diseases have molecular underpinnings, and what we're hoping is that by looking at those molecular underpinnings as opposed to necessarily the anatomical function, it will be easier for students to understand how those systems work in like a real health scenario. Because I think health is such a great area of application for biology. I'm sure as many of you know. So my strong recommendation if you are taking the full course is that if you're taking any of the levels is try to attend main lecture. I think it's really helpful. Obviously, I know Saturdays are super duper valuable for the high school student, but if you're able to try to attend the main lecture and then attend as many of our TA lectures in person as possible. And what you can't make sure that you make up the videos in a timely manner. If you are a parent, I recommend trying to keep your student to a schedule, even if they can't take the course synchronously, to find a different time, each week regularly to tell you gotta take the class now. Because if you don't set that time aside early, there's a tendency among students and even parents to procrastinate and sort of say, I'll get back to it. I'm so busy right now, and you never do. And what I'm going to say is don't procrastinate on your dreams. Don't procrastinate on those things that you want to achieve, because if you do that, you're never going to achieve it. Every time you're not making progress towards making top 20 or top 50, someone else is. And that really is how it works. Okay. So the third category of questions is really about placement and level, which is where my student should be. Again, we've in the past wavered in between giving a placement test or something of that sort, but what we've come to realize is, students really know for themselves uh, uh, where they are best suited. So we want you to just pick what you think is best. Again, if you're a beginner and you feel like I might be overwhelmed by having too much, I strongly recommend uh I strongly recommend just doing level one or just doing level two. And if you're just a beginner, I would starting with level one. If you're someone who feels like they really want to go all in on USA BO or on studying for this year, I recommend doing the full package. And if you're feeling like you've taken the course before and you already kind of know what's going on at level one, then you can just take just level two. So that's my recommendation. Sorry, to clarify something, someone says the classes are large scale Zoom meetings. Usually people are pretty quick at answer, and most of our staff stay after class to help students who need help. But like I said, students are able to ask us questions at any time. Thanks to the power of the internet, we're always available. Our course is also offered as two sessions. We're sort of trying to change the name from sessions to semesters. The first semester is going to be the first half of the curriculum. We unfortunately just can't cover all of biology in just 20 weeks, so we need the full 40-week curriculum to cover the full class. So it's a 40-week course, and there's two halves. One half is in the summer, the other half takes place over the winter and the fall. So for anyone who's wondering. Um, and you can look at our sample syllabus for both of our semesters on our website. We have our previous year's syllabi up for anyone to look at. For anyone who is interested in taking this course because they want to make USABO camp within 1 year, I would recommend strongly that you go with the full package. You're going to be spending a lot of time doing the course anyways. For any students who are taking the full package, I'm going to say a quote from an alumnus of the class from many years ago. His name was Andrew Wu. And if you're from his area or know him, but he was one of our finalists, and actually made USABO finals in freshman year. And we really liked this. He said, um, this course is sort of like drinking water from a fire hose, and it just depends on how much you want to get from it. And so, what I recommend is if you're going to drink from a fire hose, it's important to pace yourself. Take some time out. You don't have to attend everything live every week. Um, so it's fully possible to just go ahead and um, it's fully possible to just go ahead and pace yourself, right? If you miss something and you don't understand it, maybe it wasn't so important, but you can always ask for help. Uh, so yeah, and I want to thank the students who are answering some questions. Um, the semesters are paid for separately. This is so that we are able to students can choose to drop, because we unfortunately we don't have a refund policy, since it will make it hard for us to administer the course. Hope everyone understands. So that's why we split it into two semesters. It's really to offer more flexibility to our customers. So, sorry, it's really hot in my apartment. It wasn't this hot earlier in the day. So and to answer that question, again, if your student does take the course, um, because so many students take the course, uh, we have a couple of CAS policies that are in place, and we're not. able to offer much flexibility on them. One, if your student begins to take the course at a level and they feel like they are either not being challenged enough because they're in level one, or they feel like they're not able to keep up because they're in level two, unfortunately, we cannot allow you to change levels. Your only option is to upgrade from either of the single levels to the full package. This is again an administrative limitation. We would be unable to accommodate that sort of switch with our students, and I really apologize. We are a pretty small organization. We keep the ship pretty lean in order to make our keep our overhead low. So it is that is one of the drawbacks of that. But I will say that many of our students find it to be much better to do both because usually students who were confident at the start in level one, or were too cautious on level or too confident on level two, or were cautious on level one, find that there's benefits they get from each one. Um, I know some people are messaging me questions. I'm getting a lot. If your question isn't super relevant to exactly what we're talking about at this time, I will get back to it at the end. We have lots of time, so just so you know, I'm not ignoring your questions. I will just come back to them if that's okay with everybody. Uh, the other thing that we also offer is that again, if any students do need help, again, myself, my staff are always really happy to help. I will say that one big part of our community is through the chat app Discord, where students can talk to each other. And what I will say is that's a great place to reach us. But I know not every student is comfortable doing that, so we do also have availability by email. I will say that it is a little bit more challenging nowadays to receive comments over email because we get so many. So it is probably better to send questions in the chat so that we can see them, or just ask us during class. Again, almost all the staff members stay at least a little bit, if not quite substantially, after the class time ends each week. Since last year, we've been offering homework again. This is something that we haven't always done. It's challenging to offer homework because we don't just want to recycle homework. We write new homework assignments every year. So what we do is we generally produce questions new each year. The people who are writing our homeworks are oftentimes colleagues or well acquainted with the people who are writing the actual test. So you're getting test style questions. Obviously, they're not going to be the same people, but you're getting test style questions, and some of them have even written for the test in the past. So you get a lot of benefits from seeing the kind of questions that you might see. And we write new questions every year, and then we go over it each week during our homework review office hours. Note that we do not currently publish past year's homeworks, except as occasionally we'll release some. That's just sort of a class policy. Once again, it's because we have so much backlog of homeworks that we just don't want to overwhelm students with the amount of content available. We are thinking about maybe in the future compiling some practice problem sets for students, but that's something that's a work in progress. And when it is offered, it'll be offered, of course, free to all students in the class. Um, Students also are should feel free to do their own practice tests, and we do offer booster classes during breaks to help students with those tests, but that's not built into the main curriculum for anyone who's wondering. So if your student is planning on mocking their own exams or doing their own things, they can stick to their own schedule, and we won't interrupt that. It's actually it's a deliberate design choice because students oftentimes choose their own test practice schedule. We don't want to interfere with that, or they have a school program that has those tests incorporated that we again want to make sure that we don't get in the way of that. But we do offer it over breaks as intensives for those who are interested. Uh, Finally, the last sorry, I know there's a lot of questions in the chat, and I do apologize. I will get to all of your questions in 1 second. Um, the last category of questions I get asked is how should students study and what should they do? I think USABO is, and I'll just a question I was sent earlier. There is this idea that USABO is a like memorization contest or that it's a trivia contest, and I would say that that is a really fundamental misunderstanding of how of how the competition is structured and what biology is. Um, which, and of course, I understand that some people have that opinion and it's their opinion, but I respectfully disagree. You can, of course, memorize a lot of things and it will definitely help you, but I think that that is true for pretty much every subject. And the students know my opinion on the matter. I think, again, like I said, this year the course is going to be really focused on building that intuition for students because I think that that was missing for some of my students this year. And while we did do very well, I hope to do even better for the upcoming year. So, I think that's going to be something that we're really going to be focused on. Um, I'm not exactly sure what people sort of want me to say when they ask me questions like that because uh, it's not like you don't have to know anything. But I don't think it's true for any subject. So I'll just stick with that. I think the exam is super doable and super approachable if you set yourself to a rigorous testing and training schedule. What I really don't recommend, and this is something I strongly don't, is students coming in on year one and saying, I am going to make top 20. I know it is possible, and I've had many students do it. But I find that students who aim to do that oftentimes do so to the detriment of their holistic well-being. And what I'll say is, unless you're a junior and you've got your stuff together and you have everything figured out and you know how much time you have and are able to budget around it, which I think that's a really great strategy and it works for a lot of students. If you're especially like a freshman or a sophomore, I would set your early goal at making top 125 if you were if you made semis in the past or 225 if you haven't made semis or even just to make semis. I think making semifinals is something that pretty much almost all of our alumni are able to do as long as they attend the courses and attend the course and actually do the homework. So you can set your goals, but trying to make top 20 in 1 year is really challenging. All my students who've done it read for 4 to 6 hours a day. It's a lot, and I don't think that that's a time commitment all students can make. And it's not about just doing that for 1 day or a month or a week. It's doing that for the whole year, and that's pretty important. Uh, I think students should set up a reading schedule for themselves. You can follow along with the reading schedule of the course, but my strong recommendation is that you need to read ahead. Ideally, you want to be able to finish the book by the middle of the semester, so about the winter break, and then try to read the book again over that time and move on to other textbooks. Why don't, but you can also just follow the course, and I think you will do quite well and find yourself able to make semifinals without much of a challenge. If you need additional help, again, we are always happy to assist, but my comment is there's no silver bullet. I don't think there is a way to take notes or a way to practice that will guarantee success. Every student has their own method for doing well. A frequent question I get asked is, do you have to take notes during the class? And what I always say is, I think notes can be helpful. I also know many students who were successful without notes. I personally was never a note taker. I, to this day, don't take very many notes. It's just not how I learn. But many of my students do take notes. Some students find it helpful to take very, very brief notes during the live class and focus on asking questions and thinking, and then later going back and watching recordings and taking notes at their own pace where they can pause and look at the slides and rewind what they have to hear me say again. So I find that students have adopted a variety of strategies that have helped them succeed in this course. I know some students who are very, very rigorous and fast note takers, so they take notes during the live class and that's what they review. That's also successful. So it really depends on each student, and I don't think there is a silver bullet for how to study. If students want to meet, we sometimes we're often happy to do that, but usually it's a little challenging because most of us have either full-time school or full-time work, so we're unable to meet all the time, but we are able to answer the text very quickly. Also, we're frequently, when we are available, many of us will be on our Discord server in a voice call, and students can just come and ask us questions if they need to. Note that this is not always a place where it's open for questions, but if you need to make an appointment, I'm happy to do so to an extent. But most questions can be answered pretty easily over text. Whenever there's a lot of students confused, we hold what we call emergency office hours, where we'll just hold an additional Zoom session where we bring in all the students who want to come and we go over a topic again. So we're always happy to do that, and the success of our students is our main concern. Um, all right. I think that's all of our main questions that have been submitted to me. So now I'll open the floor and I'll answer the questions as they have been sent to me. Uh, our course has in the past couple of years done very well. We have, I think, 10 finalists this year, although some of them are unable to attend. So you won't, unfortunately, we won't see all of them there. But we always have a pretty strong showing among the top 20. So let me answer some questions that have been sent to me. And again, I will get to them in the order that they were sent. The first question is what version of Campbell's biology? I think any version after 9 is pretty much okay. Nowadays, I think if you're using like 7, which is my favorite edition because it's the one I used, you may be being a little bit outdated. So uh, I highly just recommend just starting with 10 if you want a more affordable edition, or picking 12 if you want to sort of spend a little more for a premium. 12 is actually of pretty good quality, and I know 13 should be out in a couple of months, so we'll have a new book to play with pretty soon. The next question is how to ensure open exam registration if your school doesn't host it. So you can ask for host matching services. Additionally, you can register with a different school. There are some testing centers that still remain, so you can always look for any of those. Uh, Depending on where you are, it might be challenging, but if you write to the center who runs the exam, they usually are pretty helpful with finding hosts. The third question is there a session 2 of this course in the fall? The answer is yes, but it's maybe a bit of a misnomer. It's the second semester of our course, which runs once a year. Um, so we'll have a course in the fall. It runs up until the open exam, but it's the second semester, so it's different content than what we cover in the spring, that we cover in the spring and the summer. So just want to make that very clear. Now to answer a few questions. Someone asks me, uh, how many students took only one round of my course? We don't keep great track of those numbers. In part, it's because some of our students take only some of the courses they take, whether only one session or both. So we're not sure, but most of our students are with us for a whole year. Every year we have a couple students who only take it once, but we have a lot of returners. They get 2 or 3 times and then make it. I know very famously, anyone who's been in the course a long time will know our very dearly beloved alumnus, Ava, who started the course in 7th grade and then finally made camp last year as a junior. So it took her a couple of tries, but she eventually did make it. Um, and we've had other students who've taken the course several times. She made it in 10th. Did she? Oh. My bad. Sorry guys. Sorry. My memory is not so good. Thank you, students. Um, another question I have is um about mock exams. Like I mentioned earlier, we don't actually go over mock exams in the course, but we do offer a winter booster which goes over the open exams. And traditionally, after the open exam, we've offered a semis booster that goes with the semis, which does semifinal exams. Uh, every year we're iffy on offering that course or not. If we do offer it, it will be pretty different from what it's looked like in the past years. I'm letting you guys know I wasn't super happy with the quality of the course last year, so I'm trying to make the course better. And so we'll see if we offer. But traditionally, we've offered additional courses for students who do it, but we do not mock any exams in our actual course. And then let's move on to the next question. It's what's the best way to take advantage of the full package? So that's a great question, and maybe some of the students who've taken it would want to chime in. Um, and talk about that. But what I will say is, if you're interested in taking the full package, again, it's about pacing yourself and picking what's most valuable to you, and then trying to get something of value out of the other sessions. It's like I mentioned earlier, Andrew Wu, he said it's like drinking from a fire hose, and if you put your face directly in the fire hose, you're gonna get blasted away. So it's important about pacing yourself, and you have more time than you think, and you don't have to understand something right away to get something out of it. So that's what I really recommend. I have a question that asks me if people if I think the biology exam is easy. I would say that like some people consider it easy, and there is this well, I really don't like this attitude from certain, especially common with students and some parents. I think maybe have this feeling that biology is somehow easier or less competitive than chemistry or physics or math. And what I'll say this here, I will say this outright, and everyone can acknowledge I said it. None of the Olympiads are as competitive as math. It's just math is so competitive at this point that if your child isn't, MOP level by the time they're a sophomore or freshman, I don't even know if it's really worthwhile for them to continue pursuing it. So that's that. I will say competitors aside, but more people take USABO than physics or chemistry combined. So I do think it is substantially more challenging in a way. Many students are good at everything, but if you want your student to be top 20 or top 50, you really just have to be better than everyone. And at that scale of competition, the size competition is not really the biggest issue. And people who say that biology is just memorization, I urge them to try and to learn it and to see and to learn it for themselves, and see what it is. 'Cause I don't think it is just memorization. If that were the case, then long ago it would have been replaced by a dictionary, but that hasn't been the case. So clearly, biology remains, I think, a pretty interesting subject for people to study. All right. I have a couple of other questions in the chat. Someone asked, do I provide any type of materials to follow the live class? The answer is not really. We have slides which we post, but generally speaking, we encourage students to take their own notes. And we have the homework that's released each week, but we don't offer materials to follow along because the main focus of each live lecture should be to listen. Um, and I don't really think it's helpful for students to fill in like blanks or something on a slide. It's something we've talked about in the past, and we've explored that option. But we think what happens is students then end up not really hearing anything besides what they have to do in like their worksheets or their follow along. So we really actually don't prefer that personally. Someone asked what's the size of the class. The size of the class depends on the registration. Usually our main lecture is anywhere from 80 to like 100 students, although it usually is not on the higher end. Um, because many of our students do choose to attend asynchronously. And I will sort of echo what Justin, one of my alumni, is saying is that even if the class is very large, very few students actually talk, and students will find that if they speak in the lecture, they message. I and all the TAs are very responsive. So I encourage students to have if they have a question just to ask. They're very rarely ignored, and sometimes if you are ignored, usually it's because we didn't see you, not because it's on purpose. Just to ask again, no one will be offended. We will get to your question shortly. So that's what we suggest. Really, there's only about 10 or 20 students who really talk each time. So the class, I think, even though it can be quite large, still feels small. And many students are more comfortable DMing us questions after. And so we're always super happy to answer after the fact. Two questions at once about students and honors biology. I recommend any student who hasn't or has taken honors biology to do just level one. They can definitely follow along whether or not they've had the experience, but in most places, honors biology is not a very rigorous, um, is not a particularly rigorous course and will not give you adequate preparation for level two. Level two is, many of you students here can speak to it. Level two can get pretty deep with the content. And I really do not think level two, like taking level two alone, especially offers tons of value to someone who isn't already pretty well acquainted with biology. Beginners, I think, will get something out of it still, but it's going to be a lot more effort to do that. Uh, and again, the size of the course varies. Um, Level two is the main course is well past AP Bio, I think. AP Bio is now that I teach AP Bio, it is very easy. No offense to anyone who takes AP Bio thinks it's hard, but compared to USABO, it's very easy. So, if that's any reassurance. Yeah. Do we have other questions? Again, feel free to send them, or if it's in the Q&A, I don't know how to see that. People just want to ask questions. I'm happy to answer. Um, I'm really excited about the USABO's future actually because there's some newer there's some fresh blood running running the test portion of it, and they have a lot of experience and the right ideas, and I'm really excited for the future. So I hope you guys are excited as I am. Does anyone else have questions? I'm not seeing very many. Um, Someone asked me how hard is the math. USABO does not feature particularly challenging math. Like usually you don't go past pre-calculus. Calculus still isn't really in the exam at all, so I would say that um I would say that it isn't like something you have to know. But the exam currently only allows a four function calculator, so you can imagine that there's nothing super challenging. If no course material is provided, should we read the book? How much homework will there be? And will it be assigned every day? Will there be tests? That's a great question. So I never said there's no course material. There's no follow along material. I know many classes today, when there's lecture, uh, like they like to give a worksheet or something to follow along. We don't offer anything like that, but we do have notes and slides that we post. Homework is posted weekly. We don't collect the homework and it's ungraded because this is, a supplemental course. We're not trying to give you a grade. But what we are trying to do is we are trying to give you a practice set each week. And these homework questions are meant to be challenging. They are college style problem sets as opposed to high school style homework. So they're meant for you to discuss and think about over the week in your own time. So there will not be homework every day. And we currently um we currently don't uh we currently don't offer any tests again because it's not a graded course. So but we usually write like a mock exam once a semester. Uh there are some students in here who are finalists and they can speak if they want to, but I have a personal policy where I don't name any students unless they want to be. Do I recommend an eighth grader to take level one? I think an eighth grader can definitely take level one, even if they have no experience. But my recommendation is that if they're going to do it, they should be prepared to put in a fair bit of work and to really invest. The course itself, if you take just level one, is still 6 hours a week, and I recommend putting in an additional 6 to 8 hours a week on top of that. Well, maybe not 6 to 8, maybe like 4 to 6 hours a week. But it really depends on what your goals are. If your goal is to make top 20, you're probably putting more than that. If your goal is just to make semifinals or make top 225, then you could do much less. I will also say that the current policy is that if you are an eighth grader, officially you cannot take the exam, and um, I'm not going to comment any further if there's other ways, because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But the official policy is, it's not saying that there's no way to do it, but I'm saying the official policy is that if you're not in ninth grade, you cannot currently take the open exam. But it's good to get started early for prep. It's the same as math competitions for AMC 10 or and similar sort of competitions for anyone who's familiar. Oh, they actually use a scientific on semis now. That's good. I will say that scientific is a little bit not great because you can get the TI 32 XS and it can do statistics for you. So everyone should just be using that now. Um, TI 36X is better. Wait, I like the 36. My issue with 36 is that it's slower than 32X. Uh And you're not really doing poly solves, right, on your test. Because entering stuff into this one is so much slower. For anyone who doesn't know, I have done this a long time. I know all the calculators on the market, and I still think TI-30. I know Castillo has some really fancy ones, but the usable questions are not that challenging. Um, like you're not really dealing with anything super challenging unless you can 36 do matrix, because that's the only advantage I could see, but that's so rare. Only if there's like Markov chains. Sorry, I shouldn't get too technical. Uh do any parents have any questions? Well, I can talk shop all day about USABO. But if any parents have any other questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, I'm totally happy to give everyone an early evening. Yes, the course is mainly lecture based. Problem solving has a couple of our specific TA modules have a little bit more diversity in what we offer, but they're mostly lecture based. For an information dense subject like biology, I think lecture based is the most efficient format, and I know that doesn't work for every student. I don't, and if your student is not one who can sit through a lecture, I encourage them to give my lectures a try. I think many students who maybe don't like lectures that much have found the lectures in this course to be more acceptable. But but I, of course, I know it depends on every student. So the Discord is only available for current students. So if you're not a current student, unfortunately, you cannot join. This was that wasn't always the case. Unfortunately, we've had some issues in the past with bots and trolls, and we want to keep our students safe. So as a result, the server is not open. It's only open to students, just for their safety. You can get. I will not. I officially the official position is that USABO style exams are available. You can get past exams from a teacher who's registered to administer the exam, and several other sources. But for the sake of not running afoul of any of the center's policies, I don't want to comment on that. I hope you understand. Uh, it's just for the sake of good relations with the center. Yeah, does anyone have other questions? I'm super happy to chat. If any of you have questions, feel free to email us at kevinbaobiology@yahoo.com. I know there is a kevinbaobiology@gmail.com, but please do not email that account. It's not monitored regularly, so if you email us there, we sometimes don't get your email anymore. So I just want to let you guys know to please email the Yahoo email. That's our official email. So your school does not need to be registered, although I will say that it is not difficult to get your school registered. Excuse me. There are testing centers in most states, and the center, which again runs the USABO, offers a host matching service, so you can always go through that, and are almost always successful in finding you a host. Otherwise, a nearby high school might be more than happy to take your student and let them take the exam there. Do you have any other questions from anyone? Alrighty. I'm not seeing any other questions. Otherwise, it was so good to see everyone. I'm going to sign off now, but thank you all for coming this evening, and I hope to see many of you and many of your students in my course for this upcoming session, and I hope you all have a great night. Um, William, we 100% did. Uh, yes. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you all for coming. Bye bye.